Good morning and welcome to the Art South Africa Art Talks at the Art Fair. We thank you for joining us, and also thank you to our panelists who are with us today. I'd like to introduce them to you. We have Chipiso Mushlala, Stembi Nkosi Guniwe, Ijeoma Okeke, and Beata Baker. Thank you, guys. Today we are looking at the art economy and audiences. Our discussion today, we're looking at new forms of access, ownership, attendance, participation for creative products and services, particularly the visual arts sector. We're going to look at new ways to grow the economy at a more accessible level that will allow or encourage potential collectors that don't have lots of disposable income to begin to invest in artworks. What are galleries and institutions and art fairs doing to incentivize and grow, attract new audiences, and create access to individuals who may be interested in buying art? And how do we view the economy of the exhibition? We're going to just have a very informal discussion around what most of our panelists are doing in that regard, and we'll welcome questions from the audience. I'm going to start with Ijeoma, firstly. I think a lot of people don't always understand the context of sort of the South African art market in relation to what's really happening in the rest of Africa. And it's, from my experience, it's incredibly different. This is like a first world model, and the rest of Africa has pockets, and they go straight to Europe. They don't even necessarily engage with the South, and we have this perception that we're kind of, I suppose, the most advanced, and people look to us, but that's not the case, I know too. So, with your experience, obviously, of what happens back home and where you come from, can you maybe just shed a little bit of light on the kind of challenges that you think we face in terms of building those networks? Firstly, to South Africa, the likes of the art fairs in South Africa, and basically talking to people from further north in Africa.
There are so many issues, and the first thing I'm going to say is that it's a problem that Omenka Gallery is the only gallery from outside Africa that's here. And for me, that's a huge problem, because I think that there are a lot of opportunities for galleries around Africa, not only galleries, but art institutions to be engaging on an economic level, because that's what everybody's thinking about at the end of the day, the bottom line. And I know that galleries bear a lot of costs, because you have to generate all the funding that you use to move artwork, to go for fairs and stuff like that. But I think there are a lot of opportunities that we are missing if not engaging with each other, because we have these perceptions. South Africa has the perception that other parts of Africa are not as resourced, don't have the same infrastructure, which is true in some cases. But business is still going on in those countries anyway, and big business is going on. So I think that it's important for us to begin to understand how we do business in those countries and begin to build networks with each other. In small ways, we have to be creative, we have to be bold, we have to be fearless. We can't always think of the challenges only, because there are opportunities and other people are accessing these opportunities. You're right, we always look to the West, all over Africa. And there are so many opportunities for us to engage with each other and to start building meaningful networks and sustainable networks and to generate an economy, an art economy. I believe very strongly in that.
Firstly, in terms of what we're doing, we need to establish what our audiences are. And there are obviously varying kinds of audiences. We have the audience that is here at the art fair, but that's a very sort of established audience, and there's not, I personally don't feel that it's something you can grow much bigger per se, unless you engage with all the other audiences, which currently we probably don't. So there's sort of engagement right from a youth level, and then right through all of those different socio-economic sort of levels you're talking about, and parts of society, and it's how do we do that? Viata, do you want to maybe just give us some insight in terms of the work that you're doing around, what are the kind of things you should be looking to do to bring together those different areas of society and in so doing grow the entire market?
Well, in terms of just giving you a little bit of what I developed for quite some time. This is the second year now. And then we were agreed, after we'd done a lot of research, to form INCA. We kept meeting. We met on a boat to Robben Island for an emerging curator intensive. Then we met at university doing a heritage program. That's great. And we kept realizing that our goals and vision was the same, but we were doing a lot of traveling on the continent as well. And I was realizing that there's such an excitement, there's such a growth spurt as technology from a film, design, etc. point of view was penetrating mobile technology. The continent, young people especially, and new artists were creating an incredible amount of work that just blew me away, from Kampala to Lagos to, and I was like, first of all, there are not enough platforms, and I was in broadcast, and I said I can start there and create some things. But essentially, it's access to the galleries, to the artists, and the coordination of that. And I know that the skills, the resources, the galleries, a lot of the know-how is sitting in different countries, but we're not really tapping into it. And South Africa is really a big brother, the America of Africa. And I felt that our integration culturally with the continent was really important, and that the thing about art, I feel, is that it affords people dignity, it affords them access to their culture, it affords them almost a spiritual kind of experience that we should not deny them. And in a lot of the development work with young people we do, you realize that they're blown away by art, but there's no one next to them that they can look up and say, that's my face, this is an artist from my country, I will participate in buying or making art. And so, as you're saying, right from the bottom up, we knew that. But the exciting opportunity in a lot of countries is that the top 2 to 5% of the economic spectrum, where people can afford to buy art, most definitely, we're not being accessed, we're not being talked to, we're not being organized, and it's pretty easy. So coming from the point of view of the confluence between economic issues and cultural issues, and then making art an experience. That's what we were very interested in, making it an experience for a young child and someone who has the means. Okay. The fear is the issue though. The fear of the white cube, the fear of the unknown, the intellectualization of the concept really makes, it creates a corridor, like a disengagement, which it's such a small thing to just simplify, to draw in and to engage. And that's really something that we want to do well, together with galleries, with the government and cultural institutions, and anyone who actually does believe that art develops humanity. Mm-hmm. And my last point would be, the forum of people sitting here are very representative of what can be done. So for us, partnerships are critical, as I was saying, the expertise and the skills and insight that we have around the table, and a lot of heart. I was looking at that form and I was thinking you actually need a lot of heart combined with expertise and to be consistent. So South Africa for me is situated, as Ijeoma said, in an exciting place. If we combined our strengths with the insight and the very, very explosive art that's coming from the rest of the continent, we will be growing awareness and audiences, but at the same time, this talk is about economics. And I think for us that's the thing. How do we create more galleries, create more engagement, spaces, and actually make the arts economy, the visual arts economy, viable for different kinds of participants? It's been quite a small niche sector, so I think that is a challenge that, it's opening up. And for the Cape Town Art Fair to be brave and bold enough to host a talk like this, to acknowledge Omenka from Lagos, to say that we want to do more of that is something that has excited us, and to make sure that we're participants. We know what the inequality issues have been in South Africa, but for us to be credible, acknowledged participants in that kind of growth and transformation is what's good. I mean, art really is wonderful. It's transformative, I believe. So we all agreed, that's why we're in this room. I think those partnerships on every level for us as an organization and as a group would be great. Yeah, great. So, thank you.
Just the same way that social media has torn down a lot of traditional business models, and publishing the traditional high quality magazine is now challenged by lifestyle and mainstream magazines, and just by the internet and all the social media platforms. I suppose the flip side of that, in terms of the White Cube Gallery that you talk about too, is that we should also be thinking about totally different and new ways of doing exhibitions and showcasing the creativity. So it's almost like a social media approach to the gallery system. So I think there's a lot of excitement also that can come out, and a lot of exciting things we can do in that regard, because I suppose some of the most exciting exhibitions that ever happen are pop-up ones, or ones that happen in an old derelict building or in the middle of town. So there's a lot of opportunities. I think those are the kinds of things that the art fair, for instance, will also have to look at, because in order to grow this platform, it'll literally hit a ceiling very quickly, and you could argue that it's almost there already in the current state.
And the expertise we have from advertising, from how people consume media and technology, is not really being drawn on and utilized very well in this sector, and that's part of what INCA wants to do. Because every time I look at those figures, we work with them, I realize that, if someone owns a smartphone in a shack, that is a possibility. It's so exciting. He can enjoy an exhibition and give you feedback.
Yeah.
He can help you inform the next year's direction. So there are audiences that we really should use our knowledge.
And there's, okay. Jeffy, would you maybe like to give us a little bit of background about obviously trying to mobile other SADC countries, working with other artists in other countries in terms of almost pulling together countries and showcasing those through exhibitions like you're doing with Kauru, and maybe react to some of the points that are brought up with regards to the kinds of exhibitions and the kind of modelling and how we could package that moving forward in terms of your project.
Kauru is an African contemporary art project, and I think the vision why we're so passionate about it's Kauru, it's actually a Khoisan name, and we wanted to break those boundaries within the continent. We need to start seeing Africa as one and stop being South Africa and Africa. We are Africa. And we need to now explore opportunities of what's happening within the continent and stop looking at ourselves as this South Africa and the rest of the continent. The reason why we are so passionate about organizing these exhibitions, especially around Africa Month, is we want to educate the younger generation and also to grow audiences around the continent. Because we tend to think that, we believe that if we start from childhood and developing the young generation to showcase what the rest of the continent is all about.
And I think that talks to your point earlier about I suppose a lot of people feel quite daunted to walk into a gallery. It's a commonly known fact that people don't even go to galleries because they don't know what to expect, because there's somebody sitting at the end of the passage behind a desk, and you've got to walk this long trail to get there and be accepted. And I think that's just a load of nonsense, and we need to turn that whole model on its head.
Yeah, I mean, part of what we do we invite artists around the SADC region and top African contemporary artists. And what we usually do is we invite schools for outreach, for walkabouts, and for them, so that we don't create that it's not a no-go area. It is part of their culture, it is part of their heritage, and they need to start embracing that.